I'm going to tell another little story. It's kind of about my dad as well, and it's about some of the things we talked about before. So Pride, is really a special time for me because I have so many amazing experiences from Pride. After Patti LuPone and the Boy from Ohio and the Lavender Empire State Building, and I've spent many years in New York, and we always did Pride. And we would always go to the parade. Me and my friend Killer, we called him Killer for a lot of reasons, and none of them have to do with Last Call from HBO at all. We called him Killer, and we would always at some point just jump into the parade with a few other people, and we'd walk the parade route and join different groups. We called ourselves queer floaters. Now, we didn't have float, we were the queer floaters. And at the time, I guess I just identified as a gay guy, gay boy. I didn't really know, that's what I was told I was by my friends and society, so I just went along with it. But as I, got older, I started not to feel comfortable with that label. And I started to identify, more trans, even though many people told me that I wasn't, because I didn't want to transition. I didn't want to take HRT, so I couldn't be trans. And so I kind of never really knew what to say about myself. Until about the last 10 years or so, where the language started to catch up with me. And everyone, identifying their pronouns now, I could finally really pinpoint it for myself. So I like to identify as she, he, they. I consider myself to be a transhuman. I am gender full. It's all going on here. All going on here. So through my work, doing Cheetah Daniels Kennedy, I started working in San Marcos, in my hometown of San Marcos. After I left New York City in the early aughts, and I came back to San Marcos, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life at all. Much like I didn't know what my identity was. But Cheetah brought me back to myself, and I started performing in San Marcos, of all places, and San Marcos got a gay bar, so my hometown finally caught up to me. The first LGBTQIA gay bar in San Marcos. It was a big deal. It was called Stonewall Warehouse. I don't know if any of you had ever been there. But I did shows there, and I became the mother of the house. Lots of kids, lots of little drag children, lots of little gender queers, and they all call me Mama. And through that, I started hosting Pride events in San Marcos, in Wimberley, in New Braunfels. So I'm the go-to queen for any small town that wants to throw a Pride celebration. Lugaling might be next. We'll see. And so I've been doing this now for years, and I love doing it. I mean, I never imagined that I would be in Landa Park in full drag, but that was spectacular. It really, really was. There was so much love in New Braunfels that day. New Braunfels needs it. So a few years ago, I was doing San Marcos Pride, and I hadn't done it in a couple of years of the pandemic and a couple of other reasons, but I wanted to do something big, and not big for me. Anyway, I decided I was gonna do Queen, Somebody to Love, and I needed to have a little choir backing me, some people in some choir robes, and I thought, well, who can I get? And I was like, I should get my mother and my sisters to do this with me. And of course, they agreed immediately. We thought, okay, that's great. So we're rehearsing it, and it's out at the park in San Marcos. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that park area with the stage where they do sights and sounds and everything. Well, we were there, we were rehearsing, because, it's just open to the public. We were rehearsing, and we get to, the guitar solo. And we're like, well, what are we going to do here? And we're like, my sister said, my father is a musician. He plays guitar in many Tejano bands. And she was like, we should ask Dad to come out and do the guitar. Air guitar it. And I was like, really? My dad's great. He's very accepting, but he is, machismo. He's grew up in the 50s in Gonzales, Texas. And, so we don't ever really talk about my identity or anything, but he knows. He's heard me say it before. I was a little nervous about asking, because I had actually asked him to perform with me before. And he declined. I wasn't heartbroken, but it was like, okay, I get it. I let him off the hook about it, but I didn't want to ask. I was a little nervous to ask, and I told my sister, I was like, Leah, you ask him. She's the favorite. I was like, you ask him. And she did, and he agreed. He agreed, and it was really fantastic. So we get to the day, it's my turn to go on, I'm getting ready to go on, and my dad pulls out his guitar, and I see he's doing something to it, and when he turns around, he has put a trans flag up by the tuning dot things. I can't think of it right now, but he had a little trans flag, and I was like, oh my God, he sees me. And it was the most amazing feeling, and this is by far of all the drag performances I've ever done, my favorite one ever. And my family stole the show from me, by the way. So if you ever want to get upstaged, or you don't want to get upstaged, don't invite your family to do the drag number with you at San Marcos Pride, because they will steal the show from you. But I tell this story because I want people to know that, sometimes it takes your parents a while to come around. If you're struggling with that or ever have, they come around sometimes. And my dad came around. He was in my drag number at San Marcos Pride waving a trans flag. So it happens. It definitely happens. I am going to bring up our next fabulous storyteller. Our next performer just learned that her election to class president in the 8th grade, where she beat her boyfriend in a grand upset, was actually rigged by her teachers. Now the rest of her life seems like a lie. You can buy her book Handsome, but now who's gonna believe any of it? Please welcome to the stage, Holly Lorka. I keep walking away with this thing. Here you go, Holly.
Thank you. I know that's terrible, isn't it? That I had a boyfriend. So there's a theme of Ohio tonight, and my wife is from Ohio, and she's incredibly good looking, so I need to know what's going on in Ohio. So if anyone can shed this light on the situation, because I didn't see that one coming, but okay. Also, I happen to love Dave Matthews Band, and Why You Gotta Hate. Yeah. So if you need to leave now, go ahead. But my story's not about any of that. This is called Loose Change. 37 cents, 1 quarter, a dime, and 2 pennies. Loose change. Some coins that you drop in your right front pocket and walk around with. You might hear them jingle occasionally or feel them with your hand when you stick it in there, but mostly they're nothing to you until you take off your pants at night and go to hang them up and the coins fall all over your closet floor. Then you kick them into the corner because you never pick shit up, and they stay there until your wife sees them, rolls her eyes, and picks them up to put them into the ceramic frog that holds the change. 37 cents represents the hatred I've felt about my female body my entire life. Just something I carried around in my pocket and would think about only occasionally. I was born in the wrong body, back before there was any language for it, and I've struggled with terrible body dysmorphia for most of my years. And yes, it's been a problem for my sex life, but mostly it's been a problem in just my day-to-day walking around life. Like whenever I put on a t-shirt, or a bathing suit, or when I looked in the mirror at myself from the waist up. That's when the hatred would flare up the worst. But even then, I just kicked it to the corner of my closet, because what the hell was I supposed to do about it? When I was 12 or 13, my mom gave me my first training bra, because she said it was time for it. I wasn't very well endowed, but my mom had rules. It was a ratty beige hand-me-down from my sister, who used it when she was like 8 years old or something, because she had giant knockers. Every time I put it on, I felt stupid and humiliated and wondered what exactly this was helping me to train for. It certainly was not going to do anything for my softball game, Mom. I was not elated about the prospect of puberty like some of my friends, who would all giddily show each other their bras in the locker room and act like this was an exciting thing, while I hid in the corner behind an open locker door and got really fast at taking my shirt on and off. But you know, you get used to stuff. I've seen people get used to not having an arm or having an allergy to every food they love. If you absolutely must, if you have no choice about something, you can get used to some pretty heavy shit and just keep moving forward. So that's what I did. I kept moving forward and grew up and knew my body was all wrong, but I sure as hell couldn't say anything to anyone like, hey, this isn't right. I hate myself. Somebody please help me. There was no one to say this to at the time. I just kept going. Luckily, I was not very well endowed, and I got very used to hiding under baggy shirts, under tight sports bras, under stupid swim shirts. Ugh. That is how I lived for so long. Every time I looked at my body in the mirror, I was just disappointed. My father was really into bodybuilding when I was young, and his muscle magazines were all over the house. I'd steal them away into my room and turn the pages and stare at how beautiful the male bodies were. Their chests were so nice, so muscular. I dreamed of waking up one day and having one of those tanned, smooth, and powerful chests with no titties in sight. The kind of chest that makes you feel taller, more confident, and not at all like a shy little girl who was stuck inside the wrong body and sometimes peed her pants when she was nervous. I grew up and lifted all the weights, tried to get into the best shape, but when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was still disappointed because my little boobs were always there looking back at me and ruining everything. Years went by like this, hiding, hunching over, being disappointed by myself. Then I turned 45, and the worst thing happened. I guess my hormones changed suddenly, because one day I woke up, and my boobs had exploded into the sexiest rack anyone had ever seen since Phoebe Cates got out of the pool in the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Where are my queer film theory folks? If you haven't seen this clip, watch it and then you can thank me later. But on me, it was terrible and I was absolutely horrified. If you have a rack like that, it doesn't matter how many bench presses you do. Your giant boobs are always there, giggling and waiting for cheerleading tryouts. I began to hide myself away more and more. I started wearing a shirt during sex. I started buying smaller and smaller sports bras and even a binder to keep them down and hidden, but it wasn't possible to hide them anymore. My loose change got a lot louder in my pocket, and it just about covered my closet floor when I undressed, but I just kept kicking it to the corner and moving forward until I realized that I didn't have to. By some crazy luck or serendipity, I worked as a nurse in the hospital where the #1 gender reassignment surgical team chose to set up shop. I recovered patients daily after all kinds of top and bottom surgeries. I saw all the new chests and dicks and vaginas, and I saw how happy these folks were with their new parts, and I was always very happy for them, like whooping it up and yelling, "Congratulations!" right when they woke up from surgery, because I am very professional. But I never considered having any type of surgery for myself. Why not? Because I'd been dealing with my stupid body for so long, and it felt like this was my lot to bear. Because I'd been hating myself for so long that I was used to it. The hatred had become a part of my own identity. But one day in the summer, I was sitting in my stupid bathing suit, which was some board shorts and whatever sports bra top that didn't highlight my cleavage too much. You all know what I'm talking about. And I was just so pissed off about how I looked, how I felt, about how I could never enjoy summer as much as everyone else because I always felt so dumb and encumbered in my outfit. And I cracked. I said, fuck it already. It's time to do something about this. I want top surgery. And the very good news is that the gender surgeon was kind of like my BFF by this point. He called me Steve for fun, and we slung dick jokes back and forth like we were 13 because we both suffered from the same degree of professionalism. It was great. So I texted him. His response was, fuck yeah, Steve, let's get rid of your tits. He actually said, fuck yeah. It takes years for people to get in to see the surgeon. That's how good he is, and that's how many miserable folks there are in the world. Yet, by the grace of my circumstances, I had a surgery date scheduled by the next day. That week, I had my pre-op appointment, which consisted of me ambushing him in the staff break room, shamelessly lifting my scrub top, my tank top, and my stupid sports bra and saying into his wide eyes, see bro, they're fucking huge. Can you get rid of these? He agreed that indeed they were huge. And within 2 months, he performed my surgery. 5 days after surgery, I went for follow-up and could finally have my binder and my dressings removed to see my chest. You know when you have those really great moments in your life, like maybe when your children are born, or maybe when you discover there's a search feature on your porn site that lets you type in anything you want and you magically get to see it? Well, this was better. My chest was finally correct, even though my freshly removed, resized, and replaced nipples looked like little scabby pepperonis. I didn't care. I've had several of my trans patients tell me that all of their dysphoria disappeared instantly when they woke up from surgery and looked down to see their new dicks or vaginas for the first time. I certainly believed them, but I didn't understand what exactly that felt like for them until that Tuesday in the office. Even though they have a shitty, small, handheld mirror in there, the second I saw my chest, all of my dysphoria was gone. In a puff of smoke and pepperoni, the 37 cents was gone, and it wasn't on the floor. It was on a trash can in the operating room. Sometimes you don't realize the extent of what is living just beneath your surface, even when you hear it in your head every day, and even when you see it staring back at you in the mirror. Sometimes you also don't realize that maybe you have options to make yourself correct, to stop all the hating. And that's exactly what happened to me. I very suddenly stopped hating myself. Now, I don't know what to do with this amount of happiness. I feel like someone just let me out of prison. It's perfect weather out, and the chirping birds are happy to see me. And oh, I also found $1 million. There's not a day that goes by when I don't see myself naked in the mirror and nearly cry from the gratitude of finally looking the way I want to look. There is not a pool day that goes by that doesn't see me prancing around freely in the sexiest little swim trunks and nothing else. I don't care if people see my scars and don't understand. I don't care if they stare at me. In fact, I kind of like it. This is how I was meant to look. Take it all in, folks. The best thing, though, the best thing is that I've been working out really hard. And now I have a fucking chest, y'all. I have a fucking slick, muscly, powerful looking chest. And I'll be competing in my first bodybuilding competition in November. My wife is getting me tiny, shiny silver shorts to wear for it. And I'm going to flex my ass off on a stage. Just like I dreamed about when I was young enough to dream. I only hope I don't pee in my shiny shorts.